Okay, I'm going to explain object-oriented AI. So we already learned how to create ALV grid format using OOALV. So in OOALV, we have used various function models like reuse ALV grid display or reuse ALV list display. Suppose if user want to see the hierarchical form, we have used reuse ALV hierarchy list display. So these are the function models we have used to display a report in the form of grid. So in ABAP, object-oriented ABAP also, we can able to display ALV format. But here, instead of function models, we use classes and methods because object-oriented ABAP is in the sense everything is involved with classes and objects. So instead of displaying with the help of reuse LV grid display or those function models, here we use methods. So everything we have to create here from the scratch. So we already remember or we already know ALV stands for ABAP list viewer or application list viewer. So to display the output in the form of grid, we use ALV. So first step whenever we use ALV format either in core ABAP or object-oriented ABAP, we have to create field cap. Please remember in the program. So this is ALV which we have used in the core ABAP. Here I have used this function model to create a field character, or else we can create manually with the help of list field cat ALV table type, and there is inside we have a structure. So first we need to write whatever we need the structure, select options, then for those fields we want to display, we have to create field cat. After that, we used to write display logic. So here we have used function model. So same steps we use, but here we will use a different format to display the data. And instead of using this function model to create field catalog in object-oriented ALV, we can use this function module. So we can create a field cat either with the help of this standard function module, or else we can create manually. So once we created, we can continue the next steps. Okay. So the first step is we have to be ready with our input and we have to create our field cat. So first we'll create field cat with the help of this function. So now the scenario is already there is an existing structure. So I'm going to use the same structure. So let's take the same example of the VBAP table. So the input is user will enter the range of sales order numbers based on the user selection. It has to display the fields there. So this is a table type. So in this table type, that's the structure. So this is a global table type and global structure. You can have local one. I have created globally. So these fields details user want to see in the output. Okay, so I will use the same in the program. I'll create in SA38 a new program for this. Oops. So, and here creation of so here type we have to select it as executable program and save it. So first we have to create our input. So input is user want to give a range of sales order numbers. So range in the sense we have to use a select options. So for select options we have a keyword select hyphen options. So sales order number is VBLN field. So I'm writing yes VBLN. for VBAP, VBEL. And whenever we are using this select option, either you need to declare one more variable or else tables keyword. So tables, VBAP, save it, check it, compute. So first we'll pass the selection text. This is sales document number. So once we pass the selection text, come back to it. So now our input is ready. So user will enter the input like this, and whenever user execute, it has to display in a grid format of these fields data from VBAP table. Now our input is ready. So to fetch this data, we have to create or we have to use select query, right? So to fetch only this data. But here, if you see, only specific fields are there. If there are specific fields, we have to create structure. So either you can create local structure or global structure. So I created global structure because first I wanted to explain this one. I want to create field cat using this function module. So whenever we use this function module, we have to create a structure globally. The same structure I'm using in the program also. So I need to say is here, here you can create local structure with types with the help of types keyword. Here we can create a structure and later on we can pass this global structure also. But instead of doing two times, one time only I will use this structure. So instead of creating something like this, I have created a global structure. And for the structure, I created table type. So these two I will use in my program. So for table type, we can create internal table, and for structure, we can create work area. Because once we fetch the data from the database table, we have to store on the application layer. So on the application layer where we store, we use internal table. So we have to declare that. Let me go back and copy the table type. So this is a table. Data, IT, VBAP, type, table type, and then work area. So work area must be structure type. Don't write table type. Work area must be structure type. If you double click, you can see in the table type, there is a line type. So this is nothing but structure. Now structure is also ready. So we have input and we have structure. For the structure, I created work area, and for table type, I created internal table. So what is the next step? We have to fetch these fields data. We have to fetch these fields data from the database table. So for that, we have to write select query. Let me go here. Select WLAN host network, these fields from. So these fields are existed in VBA. Then we are storing into. Then we are storing into table, internal table. So we are storing into internal table called ITVBA. ITVBA. But we have a condition based on the user input only. It should fetch from the database table. So for that we have to use where VBLN in. So whenever we use select options, we have to use the operator in. If it is a parameter, we have to use equal operator. If it is a select option, we have to use in because it is a range. It should be in between low to high value. So that is the reason here we have to use in operator in select option. So we have input and we are fetching these fields from database table. Then we are storing in this internal table. So how we are fetching based on this condition? What is the condition? Based on the user selected options. And after this, what we will do? We will display the output in the form of AL. But before that, ALV doesn't consider or ALV doesn't recognize these fields data. So that is the reason we have to create field cat. Even in core ABAP also we did the same. Okay, here after select query you can see I created field cat using this function module. Now same way I will create a field cat but using a different function module in object oriented ABAP. So we can call function module with the help of pattern button, LVC, field catalog merge. So this is a function module. So this function module is to create field catalog using function module. So here we are creating field catalog using this function module. And in this function module, so here we have to pass few parameters. So this I structure name is there. So let's see what is this I structure name. So if you want to see in detail about this parameter, just double click on the function module. Before that, save it. And I structure name. So if you see I structure name, here tab name is there. Either it can be structure or table or view. So in our scenario, we are using structure. So here in the I structure name, we have to pass the structure name so that it will create a field catalog. Like first, which field we want to display. Second, which field we want to display. Like column position, selection text, everything. Here we are creating with the help of this function module. So SAP will create everything. Just we have to pass few parameters like this. So here I will pass the global structure we have created. Always remember whenever you are using function module to create field cat properties, you have to create structure globally. This internal table work area you can create with local structure also, not an issue. But whenever after that, once you create locally, even though you have created locally, you should create global structure because to pass the parameter value to this function module. Because if you create locally, it can access in SE38 only. But where is this function module existed? In SE37 transaction code. So how this structure can be recognized in SE37 as we created locally? It cannot be recognized, right? So that is the reason we have to create global structure and we need to pass the structure name. So already I have created global structure. I'll pass the structure name. Here. So in a single quotes, you can pass the structure name. So here, global structure. And then here, this is a mandatory parameter. So by default, it is enabled. Let's see what is this. So it is under changing. Let's go to changing tab. And here, so this is a table type. So as we know, changing parameter act as an input or output. So in this scenario, it acts as an output. Because we are giving input as structure name, right? So here we are giving structure name like this one. So what it will do, it will create columns. Whatever the fields I declare in the structure, it will create columns and it will be stored in an output variable. So to store in the output variable, or to store in the output, we have to pass a variable name or parameter name. So once it is built, it will be sent to the output parameter. So here they have taken as a changing parameter. It can be act as an input or output, right? So now we have to declare a parameter of this type so that whatever the parameter name we will pass after creating field catalog, it will send to that parameter. Meaning, suppose if you remember, let me check for the program which I created. Manual creation of field catalog. Creation of field structure. This one. Let's see this one. If you see here, I created manually. So once I created manually field cat, like column position, field name, table name, selection text, after passing everything, I'm appending into internal table, right? So everything, whatever the column names, selection text is there, or field label is there, everything I passed to the field catalog, this internal table. So this internal table I'm sending as an input parameter. Here export is nothing but in the function model, it will be reverse input parameter because I created everything. So that is the reason I'm passing input to this display function module. But here SAP is creating. So whenever we use it is closed. Okay. So here SAP is creating the field cat. We are not creating. Just we are giving the input of structure name. So SAP is giving. So how SAP will give, once we give the input, it is sending the output. How it is sending the output? In the form of changing parameter. So whenever it is sending, it has to store in one place. Like whenever we fetch the data from the database table on the application layer, we are storing an internal table. Same way, whenever SAP is creating field cat, it should be stored somewhere, right? So that data medium, we have to pass it here under this parameter. So whatever the parameter you are creating here, data medium, so it will be stored here. So as this is a table type, so we have to create internal table. Copy this one and go to the program, create an internal table. Because SAP is sending everything using this function model. So I will create an internal table like ftcat, like field cat, type, table type. If it is a table type, no need to write explicitly type table of. And here, which I created, I will pass it. So whenever we execute this program, this function module will take the input of this global structure, which I created in ES11. And based on that, it will set the field cat, like what is the column position. So which is the first one that will be considered like a first position, second position, third. Based on this data element, it will take the field label like this. So function model will create everything. Once it is created, it will send to a parameter. So that parameter is this changing parameter, and it will be stored in this table type or internal table which we created just. And always remember, uncomment the exceptions. Now we have input, we fetch the data from the database table, and we stored in this internal table. Now data is extracted in this internal table. And now even we have created field cat also for this fields. So everything is ready. Then what next step we did in the Ooabap? So after field cat, we use the function module to display the data, right? So but here we don't use the function module to display the data as it is object-oriented ABAP. So instead, here we use classes and methods. Now, let's go to so now this step is done. So the next step. So whenever we want to display the data in object-oriented ELV, we use this method. So this method set table for first display. So this method is existed in a class. So if you remember, when we created classes and methods, where the methods are existed inside of the class, even it is a global class or local class. Once we created the class name inside a class, if it is a global class, we use a method called methods tab, and under the methods tab, we created methods. Let me show you. Let me take the same class here, GUI custom. This is for container. Let me go back here. So this is the class. So where are the methods? Under the methods tab, we have methods, right? So same way, if I want to display ALV format in object-oriented ALV, we have a method for set table for first display. But this is existed in this class, CLGUI ALV grid. So this is existed in the class, this one. So already method is there, method logic is there in this class. If you see, this class is started with C, meaning it is a standard object which is created by SAP. So already class is there, method is there. So I want to access this class method. So how can I access it? Already logic also existed. I no need to create anything from the scratch. If you remember, in the beginning of object-oriented ALV, I mentioned one thing. We can reuse the methods and class. So that is the main advantage of object-oriented ALV. So already there is a logic existed in the standard class. So if I want to use this method, how can I use it? Any idea?
By creating object.
Yes, by creating an object, and with the help of the object, we can call this method. So we already learned to call the methods we created object. Once we created the object, we can call the methods. If it is a instance method, we created the object. With the help of object, we call. If it is a static method, we can call with the help of class. Now, so this class, this, so this is a method. So where it is existed, it is existed in this class. And if you see the description, formatted output table is sent to control is there. If I double click on it, it is a standard method. So there is a logic already existed. So logic is already existed, class also already existed. Just we can call this method from this class. So whenever I want to call a method, first I have to create an object. And before that, here we need to learn one more step. So this is clear, right? So whenever the existing classes methods are there, to access those methods, we have to create an object. Now, we need to understand one more step. Let me pass something here. This there. Now, this is ALV report. This is hierarchical. Let me take normal ALV. So if you see, this is a grid format, right? So whenever we are using normal ALV Ooabap, we use the reuse ALV grid display or list display. So whenever we use that, if you see there is a box existed, right? If you see it is a rectangular box is there, right? So on the rectangular box, it's like a frame, or imagine like it is like a box. On that we have grid, like a combination of rows and columns. So it's like combination of rows and columns, right? So this is a grid, and where it is this grid on the one frame or box. So that we call technically container. Container is nothing but it's like a frame. To hold this grid, we used to create under a container. So whenever we have used that function model, SAP has created. But whenever we use object-oriented ALV, we have to create the container to hold this grid. So everything we have to create it here. So first we have to create an empty container like a frame. On that, we have to place a grid to display the data in the form of rows and columns, because we need field labels, we need to display the content from the tables, right? So we need a grid and we need a container. So to create container, we have a GUI element in SE51 transaction code. In module programming, we created so many GUI elements like table control, tab strip, and even we have used text element. So those all we did in module programming, right? So in the GUI element list only, we have an element called custom control. We take any program which is module program. So let me show you. If I explain normally, you don't understand. So let's see visually. Screens, and this is a screen. If I go to layout, and here this button, if you see custom control is there. If I select this one, so this is used to hold the grid. So in the back end, whenever we used to display the data in the form of ALV, system used to create like this container, and upon this container, we used to place a grid. So right now we have to create everything. So this we have to create in the SA51 transaction code, and later on we will create a link in our program. Okay. So this is a container. So this container is used to display the ALV format. So if you want to display the data in the form of ALV grid, so it is a grid, right? So this grid will be hold under a upon a sorry, first layer will be the container. Upon the container, grid will be there. But here we don't see. If you see, there is a rectangle box from top to bottom. If you observe clearly, there would be a rectangle box. So this rectangle box is nothing but container or custom control. So upon the container, we have a grid. So this we have to create. So whenever we use object-oriented ALV, first we will create in SE51 transaction code, and then later on we can create a link, this GUI element from SE51 and in our logic. So we delete this. Close this one. We close necessary. This is also not required now. So now we need to create a container, and after that we have to create a grid, right? So to create a container, we can use SE51 transaction code, but that one we need to use Am I audible to you?
Yes, Neha.
So to create a link between SE51 in our program, we have a class. we have a class that is CLGUI custom container. So in this class, there is already logic is existed. We go to SC37 custom container. So this is the class. So in this class already SCP has written logic, which is required to create a link between a container in SC51 and in our program. So just we need to call this class in our program. So to call this class in our program, what we have to do? Again, we have to create an object, right? So those steps we will do it now. So the first step, let's create a container in our program. Then later on we will create the link. Later on we will create the screen element. So at the end we will create the screen element. So first we'll create the object for CLGUI custom container. So this class is already existed. We don't need to create anything from the beginning. So just we can access with the help of object. Now I'll go to the program. So to create an object, first we need to define it. So here data for container, I will create an object like LOCONT, like or else you can write LO object content. So that is up to you. Type ref to class name. So what is the class name here? CLGUI custom container. So here you can give a class. Now we define the object. After definition, what we have to do? We have to create it. So here we can create it. Create object. What is create object? Create object. What is the object name I created? Elvo content. So I created an object. Let's save it. Check it. So there is an error. There is no spelling mistake here. Like create object name we used, right? But there is an error. Like no values was passed to the mandatory parameter container name. But here I'm unable to see any parameter because I'm just creating an object, right? So backend, there is a method, and for that method, there is a mandatory parameter is there, like container name. So that we are not passing here. To see what is that parameter in detail, let's go to that class. And if you remember, in yesterday's class, constructor. This is a constructor I created yesterday. So here I don't have any parameters. So this is my constructor name, instance constructor. This is a static constructor. I called, like I have written some logic. There is no parameter for my instance constructor. So directly I created an object. So once I created an object, I can pass default values. Or else if I execute, my method logic will be executed. So the main purpose of the constructor is it is used to pass the default values to the methods, right? Now, if I go to the second program, if you see, create object after exporting I have written. Till yesterday's class, before that, anytime I did not use this code. I used to write create object name. Whenever I will call any global inheritance or local inheritance, if you observed in the previous classes, this is a global class. So if you see, directly I used to write programs. Let me show you so that you will get an idea the difference between the other programs and just local inheritance. So here what I have written, create object name. That's it. So after create object name after there is no import or export, right? So this is a normal method. If I go up, see this is a normal method. And same way, we take global inheritance. Okay, let's see this one. And here, whenever calling the abstract class methods from global class, if you see how I created the object, create object, object name. After object name, there is no import or export parameter till yesterday's class, right? Now let's go to yesterday's class. This one. So if you have observed here, after create object name, there is one parameter exporting. So exporting in the sense, in the class it would be importing. And here I passed a parameter, right? Suppose I change mode. I will comment this one and I'll put a dot. Let's see this. So this is a constructor program. So there is a error whenever I'm creating, like usually we used to create object like this only. Create object name. If I create like this, there is an error. No values are passed to the IM matter. So where IM matter is there, if I scroll up, so IM matter is existed for this constructor method. So the same error we have seen today also. If you see, no values are passed to the parameter, mandatory parameter container name. Meaning in that CLGUI custom container, there is a constructor method. And for the constructor method, there is an importing parameter. So that import parameter I'm not passing here. That is the reason I'm getting an error. Instead, I told you uh, at the time of OOALV, we will see the real time scenario of constructor method. So that we are seeing now. So we will pass few parameters here. So see, just I gave the object name, same error. If I go to local constructor which created yesterday, if I don't pass the parameter name, I'm getting an error. So if I want to pass a parameter, I should go to the constructor method and I should check it. Here name has given I am matter. So this is my parameter name. So this parameter I need to pass after creating an object. So here if you see I am matter, I have passed it. Me uncomment it. If I check, there is no error, meaning I have passed the mandatory parameter which was assigned to the constructor method. Same way, SAP also, whenever they have created this class, CLGUI custom container, in this class, there is a constructor method. So the constructor method, we need to pass a parameter value. Otherwise, it is giving an error. So I'll go to the class and so how can we find a constructor method? You see, uh, I'm on a class. This is the class name, and under this is a methods. So in this methods, how can I recognize constructor method?
There will be a settings type icon.
Okay. Other than that, do we have any other way to find out? Observe these method names. Any idea? Did you get it? No? Now I got the constructor. You set this icon, and also, if you see what is the name of the constructor method, constructor only. So we can recognize the constructor method with the help of this icon and the name. The name is constructor. So if I place a cursor on this constructor and I'll go to the parameters tab and see here there is a mandatory parameter is there. So this is unchecked. Optional is unchecked, meaning this is a mandatory parameter. In my program also container name is there, right? See, container name is missing here. So I have to pass this parameter. So how I checked it? I went to the class and I recognize this is a constructor method. Because whenever we create an object, if it is asking any parameter, you should remember blindly that is a constructor method. So we have to pass this parameter value. So this parameter, if I write container name. So this container name is nothing but, if you see the description, name of the screen, custom custom control name to link container to. Meaning, as I told you, we will create a screen element in SC51 transaction code, and later on we will create a link in our program to display the data, right? So for that, we are using a link with the help of this container name. Like whenever we used to create any GUI element in SC51, we used to give a name. If you remember, in module pool program also, whenever we created any GUI element, let me show you. Okay, let's see this. If I go to screens, layout, so if I double click on this one, see there is a name. And if I double click on this button, so button name is there, right? So for buttons, how the system will be recognized with the help of function code. For buttons, it will be recognized with the help of function code, right? So if you see, there is a function code. Same way, if it is a normal elements like input parameters, so how it will be recognized with the help of name. If it is input parameter or output parameter, we will be recognized, or if that screen element will be recognized with the help of name only, even if it is a tab strip also. So if you are using tab strip, with the help of tab name only, it will be identified, right? So same way, whenever we will create a, whenever we will be creating custom control in SC51, we will give a name. So this name should be matched with our program container name. So how can we give create a link between our program SC38 and SC51 with the help of this parameter? Just we have this parameter. So this parameter, we will pass a container name. So whatever the container name you are using in the program, same container name we have to give in SC51. So that the link will be created between SC38 and SC51 transaction. So that is the reason we are using this class in our program. We have to display the data in the form of grid. But where grid is existed? On a container. So container in the sense it's like a frame. So that frame we will create in SC51. But we are writing logic in SC38. So to create a link between SC38 and SC51, we are using this class. With the help of this class, we can give a container name, or we can give a link between container from SC38 and SC51. Let's do this one. I go to program. So after create an object, either you can write manually, like exporting. Always remember, in the class, if it is import, in our program it will be changed as export. If it is export in the class, then it will be import in our program. Always it will be exchange. So remember that. So either you can write it manually like this, or else we can repeat the same step. Like after writing the object name, press Control and Space bar. It will be show you at the bottom object name. Then press enter. So instead of writing manually, do these steps. Because if you write even one small, even one character mistake, it won't appear. So better to use the shortcut. Now here, let me uncomment exceptions. These are not required. Let me remove few things which we are not using. So if you see container name, this is a mandatory parameter. So here we are giving the name of screen custom control to link to the container. So here, whatever the name we are giving in SC51, whenever we create a custom control, we have to pass the same name. So remember this point. Here I'm giving container, right? So I'll use CONT, like contact. Okay. So which name you are giving here? It must be capital letter. Which name you are giving here in SA51? Whenever we create a screen element, we should pass the same thing. Okay. Now we have created, like programmatically we created container. So after that, what we need, so this rectangle box is created in the program level, not in the design level, only program level I'm saying. Okay. So design level we will do later. So after that, what we need this rows and columns to display this data. So rows and columns are nothing but we used to say grid. So we need to create a grid. So to create a grid, we have a class that is CLGUI grid. If you remember, I told you that with the help of this method only, we can able to display the data in the form of ALV report in object-oriented app. So this method is also existed in this grid class only, CLGUI ALV grid. So with the help of this class, we can able to display the data in the form of grid with the help of this method. Some network issue. Okay. So if you see, first container is there. On the container, we have this grid. So container in the sense this rectangle box, which you are seeing from this corner to this corner. So on this container, we have this grid, like rows and columns, right? So we need to create a link between even container and grid. Because on the container only grid is existed. We need to place this grid on the container only. So we should create a link between container and grid. So for that, first we will access this class, this one, CLGUI grid. So this class is already existed in SAP. So this class, we will, from this class, we will call this method. So before calling this method, we will create a link between this container and grid. So with the help of object, we can access this class properties. If you remember, object definition is nothing but it is an instance of class. So instance of class is nothing but it is like a duplicate copy of class. Whenever we want to use a class, instead of creating everything from the scratch like this, mm, let me go back to the class CLGA grid. So this class is having the data or having the logic to create a link between container and grid. So instead of writing everything from the beginning, like interface name, attributes names, method names, so what we can do, we can create an object. So object is nothing but instance of the class. Instead of creating the class, we can get a shortcut or we can get a duplicate copy of the class with the help of an object. So instead of creating everything from the beginning, what we'll do, we will create an object for this class. So whenever we will create an object for this class, these all properties, we can access it. Whatever the methods, attributes, events, friends, whatever exists in this class, those all we can access it with the help of object. So we'll create an object for this class. So copy the class name and go to the program. So to create an object, first we need to define it. So let's define the object name first. LO grid. Type ref to class name. So this is the class name. So for this class, which object I created? LO grid. So to access all the properties of this class, what we have to do? We have to create this object. Till now, we haven't created this object. Just we gave the object name. So to create an object again, we have to write a statement, create object. Object name is LO grid. Now let me see. I'll check it. Now see, there is an error. So what is an error? No value was passed to the mandatory parameter. If you remember, whenever we created object for the container, same type of error we have seen, and here also same type of error we are seeing. Like in the creation of object, if you are getting an error to pass a parameter value, meaning it is a in the class there would be a constructor. So for the constructor, there is a mandatory parameter is there. So let's see, is there any constructor method in the class? So go to methods. You can recognize with the help of method name, or as you said, there will be icon. But if you want to search quickly, just you can use. Select this one. Okay. So here we can write constructor name. Construct, like instead of scrolling everything to bottom, we can write constructor. If it is spelling mistake, you don't get it. Let me do find next. Here it is there, constructor. See, there is a constructor, and for this constructor, let's see what are the parameters are there. So if you see here, there is a mandatory parameter is there. So what is the mandatory parameter name? iParent. So what is the description of it? Parent container is there. So what is the parameter name? iParent. I'll go to the program. What is an error? See, no value was passed to the mandatory parameter iParent. Where it is existed, this parameter is existed for the constructor. So we have to pass this parameter. So to pass this parameter, just remove the dot. Again, press Ctrl and space bar, and you will get the parameters whatever it is existed. In this, only the required one I'll keep it. Remaining all I will be deleted. So let me delete this first too. So exception we need. So don't delete exceptions. You can uncomment the exceptions to avoid the runtime errors. Now this is a mandatory parameter iParent. So what is this? iParent is nothing but here we have to give the container name. So for container, we already created an object. Because if you remember, there is a link between container and grid. Because on the container, this is a container, and on the container we have this grid, right? So to create link between these two, we have to give the name. We have to pass the name. So that is nothing but here under the iParent, you have to pass the object of your container. So what is object of the container? LO container. So that we have to pass it here, LO container. So meaning we created link between container and grid. So this is grid and this is container. To create link between these two, like if you see in the output on the container only, we are inserting the grid, right? So there would be a link between these two. So to create that link, programmatically, we created the object for the container, we created object for the grid, and here we gave the link. Like on the container only, grid should be placed. So this is the grid where it should be placed on the container. So for container, which object we created? LO container. So I gave object name as a reference. So that whatever the grid is there, that will be placed on this container only. So imagine that here programmatically I have written. Suppose if I creating SA51 screen element custom control with the same name, then on the container, the grid will be placed. How it will be placed? Here with the help of object I created for this container. So with the help of this link uh, on the container, grid will be placed. And to create the link between program and SA51, we are giving the same name as element. So till now, I did not design the screen element. Programmatically, I'm designing. Okay. Now, let me go over here. So here container is there, grid is there. Now we have created the link between container and grid. Now the next step is we need to print these values, like whatever the columns and this content we need to pass it. So if I go back to the program, how we got that output with the help of this internal table here with the help of IT field cat and internal table. We pass through this function module to display in the form of ALV report. Same thing, I need to display in the form of ALV, but using this method, set table for first display. So here we have to pass the internal table. Like after fetching the data from the database table, where we are storing in this internal table ITVDAP. And to create the column names and positions, we are using the field catalog. So that internal table. So these two details we need to pass to the method. So in Ooabap, we used a function module that reused ALV grid display here to display the data. But instead, to display the data, here we are calling the method. Display in data using methods for data. So here I need to call with the help of object. If you remember methods, we used to call with the object, or if it is a static method, we used to call with the help of class name. Now let's see whether this set table for first display is an instance method or static method. If it is instance method, we will create an object or we will call with the help of object. If it is a static method, we can call with the help of class. Now, so where it is existed, that method is existed in CLGUI grid. So go to that method. So if I go to methods tab, so this is a method. So set table for first display. What is the level of this method? Instance method. So instance method means we can able to call with the help of object. So we need to create an object, but already we created an object for that class. If you see in the program for CL GUI ALB grid, we already created an object. So no need to create one more time object. Just we can call with the help of an object. So let's go to pattern. You can use manually or else you can go with this option. So to call a method, so by default it is selected as call method. If you want to create an object, you can choose this option also. Instead of writing create object name, if you want to create with the help of SAP functionality, you can use this option. Event to raise an exception. You can write statement or else you can choose this buttons. So now I will call the method with help of this option. Instance in the sense we have to pass the object name. So which object we need to pass here? The set table for first display is existed in which class? CLGUI grid. So for the class, I created the object name as LO grid. Here I will pass LO grid. And here class name. So the class name is CLGUI ALB grid. And method name. So method name we can take it for help or else you can find out here. Set table for first display. So whenever you are typing, always remember don't write any spelling mistake. If you write spelling mistake, it won't be listed at the bottom. You can scroll down and you can check it. So this is the class. This class is having this method to display the data in the form of grid. So this logic already, so this method is already existing in this class. There is already logic. So no need to write the logic anything. So that is the reason we are taking the duplicate of this class with the help of creating an object. So object in the sense it is an instance of class. Instead of writing everything from the beginning, what we are doing, we are accessing only the properties of the class with the help of object. By creating an object, which we are giving the referring to the class, whatever the properties are there inside of this class, like methods, attributes, events, exceptions. So whatever it is there, those all we can access it once we created an object. So once it is done, press enter. And here only the necessary parameters will pass. It's all not required. So let me delete it. Otherwise, the code will look very messy. Now, here IT output tab, meaning IT output tab in the sense here we have to pass the internal table where our data is existed. So where our data is existed after fetching from the database table, our data is existed in this internal table. So where we have the data, that internal table, you have to pass it to this parameter, IT out tab. So here I will write IT VBAP. And if you remember, we are selecting specific fields from the database table, right? So for the specific fields, we created field cat. So we use this function module. So system will be create or SAP will create this field cat properties. So once it is created, it will be stored in this parameter. So this parameter or this internal table, I will pass to this parameter, IT field cat. Like in core ABAP, we pass the same things. If you remember, hmm, here. So this is a function module. We use ALB grid display. What we passed here, internal table of field cat and internal table of our data. Only these two things we passed. Same we are doing here. But the difference is here we are passing to the method, there we pass to the function module. That's it. ITFT cat. Uncomment exceptions. Uncomment exceptions and save it. Check it. Where is ITFT cat? Oh, FT cat. Okay. So now everything we studied properly. So first what we did, we created an input parameter to provide for the user to enter sales order numbers from low value to high value. Then user want to see these fields data in the form of grid. So we have fetched these fields data from the database table, then we stored into this internal table. And after that, so ALV format, suppose if you want to achieve in object-oriented ALV, we have to use like field cat, either we can use manually or else we can use this function module. So the first thing I use this function module. So for the function module, we have to give the structure name because this structure is having the fields which I want to see in the output. I think I have closed that one. Okay. So this structure is having the fields. If you see, these are the fields which I want to display in the form of output. So those information I have given here. So after that, SAP will generate field head and it will pass to this parameter. And after that, if you want to display in the form of ALV, in object-oriented ALV, we have to create container grid. So to create a container programmatically, we can create with the help of this class. So this class is already having the data or logic. So instead of we are writing, directly we can access this class properties with the help of creating an object. So here we create an object for the container. And here we gave the container name. So this container name, whatever I have given, So I have to create a screen element to display the form of output. So there also I have to give the same name. And on the container only we will place the grid. So to create a grid, instead of writing everything from the scratch, again we have used this class. So for this class, we created an object. With the help of an object, we can able to create a grid. So grid will be exist on the container. So to create link between these two, I gave the container object name to the grid so that this grid will be set on this container. And then to display the content in the output screen, we have used this method, set table for first display. Here we are passing our internal table, which is having the data and field getter. Now we have to create the last step, which is left is screen element. We have to create the screen element. So we can create the screen element. So how we will create? With the help of screen. So where we will place the screen elements on the screen only, right? So we have to create the screen. If you want to create the screen, we can click on this button, and here we can able to right click, create screen. We can use it, or else else directly here. So right now, if you see there is no screen, okay, or else we can use one statement. Call screen number. Suppose I will create on the screen number 100 instead of creating manually by choosing this program name. Right click on the create screen and screen number. Just I will write just I'll create the screen with the help of this string. Call screen number. And once I write the statement, double click on the screen number. Like whenever we used to create perform statement, we used to click on perform name to create a subroutine. Or if you want to create include programs, include name, we used to double click on the include name. Same way, to create the screen number 100, you should click on the 100. So it is not existed. Do you want to create? Yes. See, the screen has appeared. If you remember in module program, we created the screen, and after that we will enter to the screen. Suppose here I will write sales order details. Display sales order details. So you can give the short text, and after that to create screen elements with the help of layout option, we can able to create it. So click on the layout. You can maximize this one. So this is the screen element custom control. So with the help of this screen element, we will place the grid on this container. So here, this one where we are doing in SC51 transaction code. So this is a specific transaction code to create a screen in SAP. But instead of going to SC51 transaction code and creating the screen, I simply used a keyword. Let me open the program in one more screen. Just to this programming. So this is the program. So instead of going to SA51 transaction code and giving the screen number, I gave directly with the help of this statement. So either you can go to the transaction code and do it, or else you can use this statement, or else we can click on this option and create the screen. So three ways are there. You can go to SA51 transaction code, give this program name, and create the screen number. So create the screen by giving the screen number, or else choose this button. We already use this in module programming, or else directly you can give the statement types and double click on the screen number. So the screen number will be created. Now here, this is a container. So we need to give the container. And whenever we are giving the name, this should be matched with our SC38 program, because this is existed in SC38, right? But where is our container logic? If I go here, where is our container logic? Here in SC38 program. And what is my container name? If you see, container name is CONT. So this name only I have to pass to this screen element, so that it will be create a link between SC51 and SC38. So here I will use a name SONT. Save it, close this one, and you can activate it. So screen 100 is activated. Now come back, activate it. So earlier there is no screens folder was there. Once I call this statement and double click on 100 number, so that folder has created. So there are three ways to create the screen. One, you can create, you can click on this button, right click on the program name, create a screen, you can create it, or else use this statement. Third way is go to SC51 transaction code, give the program name, give the screen number, and create it. So either way to go. So now we created container design also in SC51 transaction code. So how the link will be created between SC51 and SC38 with the help of this name. And here we gave the screen number. So it will go to the screen number and it will check this name. So that if both are same, then it will be created in the output screen. Okay, check, activate, and exclude. Suppose I'll display from sales order numbers 2 to 10. Now see, it is displaying sales order number from 2 to 10. So if you see this box, wherever it is started, this one, this is a container. So this bottom one, if you see this line after 10. So this is the container. On the container, if you see this, these are the rows and columns. This is nothing but this is a grid. So we place this grid on the container. So programmatically, we have used two classes. We access the class properties with the help of creating an object. If I want to go back, this back button is not enabled because here we are using screen, right? So this GUI element where it is existed on the screen. So if it is existed on the screen, we have to pass few things. Like if you remember in module programming, if user click on something, like if user interacting with any button, it should perform an action. So those things we have written the logic under few modules are there, like PAI and PBO. If user click on this button, it should go back to the previous screen. So meaning I have to write the logic process after input PI event because user is interacting with the button. So that was not written. So that is the reason it is not working here. This is a screen related logic only. If you see, this is displayed on the screen number 100. Whatever we are seeing here, this is created on the screen number 100 only. But 100 screen, if user click on this back button, you should go to the back previous screen like that. I haven't written the logic. So that is the reason it is not working. Let me write that. 38. Change. So again, double click on the screen number. So now PI and PBO is here. So uncomment PI event, double click on it. We have to write the logic. You can use the same program or else you can use new include program. So that is up to you. Not a warning. Click on save. Here I will write. So for back button, we have a function called back only. Like in module programming, we have seen clearly. So that is the reason here I'm not showing. So to store the function codes, if you see, I want to click, whenever user click on back button, it should come back to the previous, right? So this is nothing but button. So whenever we are interacting with the buttons, a function code is generated. We already learned this concept. So that function code will be stored in a system variable called sci-uform. So that I'm writing here, case sci-uform, like whenever the function code is generated as BACK. So when it will be generated, when user click on back button. So when user click on back button, which function code will be generated? BACK. So if it is that function code, what we want to do? We want to leave from the screen. So for that, we used to write a statement called leave to screen 0. So 0 in the sense it will be go to the input screen and case must be closed by end. So I have written the logic like whenever user click on back button, it should go to the previous screen. So 100 before I haven't written any screen. So that is the reason previous screen is the sense it is 0. So the function code is BSEK. If you want to see this one, we can go to the TF status and see this function code. Or else you can check in the debugging mode also. Just put a breakpoint in the debugging mode, and whenever you click on back button, this function code will be generated. Activate this one and come back. Activate this too. See, this is related to the screen. Activate this also. Come back. Activate this also. So we need to do multiple times activation because here we are using screen program. So we have to do activation more than one time. Okay, this time. So now we are in the output screen. Suppose if I want to come back, I'm clicking on back button. See, now I came to the previous screen. So previous screen in the sense input screen. Mm, suppose if user want to see any buttons or else if user want to see any say title for the report. So before displaying the output, we want to print it. Suppose if I execute this one, if user want to create any custom button here, or if you see there is no title, it is displayed like SAP. User want to see a title and a button. So for that, we have to write the logic, extra logic. So these are the additional things. To display the data in the form of everything here we can do. But if user want to see the title and so title also as a part of ALV report only. So that is I thought I could explain along with that. If user want to create, if user want any custom button on the application toolbar, so that also we can achieve it. In Ooabap also we created buttons and we displayed the title of the report, right? So here also we can do it. And now the thing is, before displaying the output only, it should be print the title, and along with that, it should be create a button here. So where I should write the logic? I want to write a title and I want to create a button. But before displaying the output only, that should be ready because user want to see the title of the report. So when it should be ready before displaying the output, like whenever user click on execute, it should be ready. After clicking on execute button, it should be print the title of the report, and along with that should be create a button. So that related logic, where should I write? Either PBO or PI event, which is the right one?
PBO
PBO,
event.
PBO, right. So if user is interacting with the button, then we will write the logic under PI event. Always remember, like back, just now we created. We have written the logic for back button. So there user is interacting with a button. But right now, whenever user is passing the input and whenever user is executing the report, it should appear automatically. Meaning we have to write the logic under PBO event. So for that, again double click on the call screen 100 and here uncomment the module PBO. Double click on it to create it. I think this concept is completed 20 days back, I believe. Multiple program. If you don't remember these concepts, once watch the videos so that you will understand. You can use main program or else you can use this input program. One second now. Hello. So you will get a warning. You can ignore it by pressing enter. Save yes. And here we can create our own PF status. So let me create our own PF status also. And suppose let's see PF. So I'm creating my own PF. So these steps we already did in ALV and model two program also. PF functions. And click on continue. Here, let me give back button. So here I'm using my own PF, like personal functions. So whatever the SAP is providing, those function keys will be disabled. So that is the reason I'm writing here again, because I want to print the title. So title also comes under our own PF form. So title, give a name. Let's see. So give any name that should be capital and double click on it to write the title. Suppose let me write sales order item details. Mm, activated. So once it is done, activate it and activate this also. Come back and we need to activate the program also. So now everything is activated. Execute it. Mm, Why this? Let me check it whether it is activated properly or not. It's activated only. Do it again. Just so just you can do activation one more time. Let's check now. Let me do like refresh. It should appear. Mm, Strange. Let's do it again. Okay. And I need function or button also, right? I forgot to create the button also. So let me do it now. So this is the function key back. Suppose if I want a button, close. So I'm creating a button like close. And here I will give, so this is a function code close only. So let me check whether anything related to close. Is a close folder. Okay, if I don't find any relevant one, I don't give any icon of close. So everything I give close. I'm giving a shortcut of F2. Continue. So this is a function code. So whenever we click on close, it should be read from the screen. Same like back button, I gave close. It should be displayed. Probably it's not accepting these many letters. Let me take the ID, just 4 letters. Let me see. So, water item details. So let's check this one. Button. So button related logic I have to write. So I created button using PPO event under set PF. I gave the button of application toolbar that is close. So whenever user click on close, it should leave from the screen. Like it should act as a back button. Mm, So that related logic we have to write under PA event because whenever user click on close, it should come back to the previous screen. So user is interacting with the button. So that logic I have to write under PI event. Here I will write when close. So this is the function code for close button. When close, same. Leave to screen to 0. So either user can use back or close. Like we can use exit or back button same way. Here I gave close. Activated. Activated once again. Come back. Activate program. Close button is there. If I click on close, it is come back. But this title is not displaying. Actually, it should work. It's not. Okay, this title right. All titles. It is inactive. See? That is the reason it is not reflecting. So if it is don't reflect, just double click on the name and here all title is there. Click on that. You can see whether it is activated or not activated. So it is inactivated. That is the reason it is not displaying the title. Now we will get it. Activate. That's good. Now let's see. 2 to 12. Now see, there is a title. So in case if it is not reflecting, once cross check it. Sometimes even we do active, it might not be active because this will be creating a different transaction code. So check clearly by going to a button just now I have shown, right? So now we have the title and here we have a button. Either user can click on this back button or close so that it will come out from the output. So any doubts till here? Shravani, stop recording the session.